Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Good morning. Welcome here to everyone in person and online. Happy summer and happy almost school being out. Yay, we made it. Good job, kids and parents. My name is Kimberly. I'm one of the pastors here, and it is my pleasure to welcome you this morning. As always, I get to kick off with a few things going on to let you know about. So as we go into the summer, we're just giving you a heads up that the long weekends out of the summer, starting next weekend, we're going to have services for everyone where the family tables will be set up again in the back. For families, there'll be kids participating in the services and activities for them. So it's going to be really fun. We're planning very fun services, but just a heads up for those 3 services throughout the summer, we'll all be together and going to have a really fun time. So don't be intimidated by bringing the kids into the service. We really love that. Our SPAC moms are planning some park days, play dates. Going to be really big play dates, I guess. So the first one is July 6th at 10 a.m. at the Stony Spray Park. And so all moms and their little people are welcome to come out that morning. And there'll be a few others throughout the summer as well, just to connect and let the kids play a little bit. On July 10th, we're really excited to have Brian with Ratnac International joining us in our service and after our service. Ratnac International is an organization working to restore Cambodian trafficking survivors. And we've had a partnership and relationship with them for many years. And so finally able to have them come and share with us again and connect again. And so Brian will be here on July 10th, and he'll be set up in the cafe after the service if anyone wants to spend a little bit of time visiting with him and asking him questions. We wrap up our 3-year capital campaign today, and Flourish wraps up today, so we're excited about that. We celebrate that, and that we get to, ask the question, where do we go from here, and move on to other things. But we love to feed you sugar, and so there's freezies after the service. So kids and freezies, it sounds like an amazing, and the sun, it just sounds amazing. So grab a freezie on your way out today. And then, as always, the QR codes in the chair in front of you. If you scan those with your phone, that just gives you an opportunity to let us know who you are if you're new, or get signed up for our newsletter, or find ways to give if you're looking for that this morning. Or you can always visit our info center for that information as well. So I will turn this over to Shalina.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. What a privilege it is to come and be together, to worship together. Like Kimberly said, today is our Flourish celebration. We're wrapping it up, end of June. It's been 3 years. And as I was drawn to Scripture for our call to worship this morning, and the Lord kind of led me to it, and it kind of ties into where we're going with the service. But there was a little surprise for me in the midst of it, and it made me smile. So I hope it will for you too. You'll catch it. But this is Psalm 115. And this was one of 3 psalms that would have been sung at a Passover meal. And it was the Israelites, they would recount their liberation from Pharaoh, their liberation from slavery. And so this is going to be our call to worship this morning. Not to us, Lord, not to us, but to your name be the glory, because of your love and faithfulness. Why do the nations say, where is their God? Our God is in heaven. He does whatever pleases him, but their idols are silver and gold, made by human hands. They have mouths but cannot speak, eyes but cannot see. They have ears but cannot hear, noses but cannot smell. They have hands but cannot feel, feet but cannot walk, nor can they utter a sound with their throats. Those who make them will be like them, and so will all who trust in them. So all you Israelites, trust in the Lord. He is their help and shield. House of Aaron, trust in the Lord. He is their help and shield. You who fear him, trust in the Lord. He is their help and shield. The Lord remembers us and will bless us. He will bless his people Israel. He will bless the house of Aaron. He will bless those who fear the Lord, small and great alike. And here it is. May the Lord cause you to flourish, both you and your children. May you be blessed by the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. The highest heavens belong to the Lord, but the earth he has given to mankind. It is not the dead who praise the Lord, those who go down to the place of silence. It is we who extol the Lord, both now and forevermore. So let's stand as we praise the Lord together. Through every battle, through every heartbreak, through every circumstance, I believe that you are my fortress, you are my portion, you are my hiding place. I believe that you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe that you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe that every blessing, every promise, every breath I take, I believe that you are provider, you are protector, you are the one I love. I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe that you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe that you are. We believe you are. It's a new horizon. I'm set on you, and you meet me here today. Mercies that are new. All my fears and doubts, they can all come true because they can't stay long. Not here with you. It's a new horizon. I'm set on you, and you meet me here today. Mercies that are new. All my fears and doubts, they can all come true because they can't stay long. And I believe that you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe that you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe that you are. Higher than the mountains that God, we are so thankful for this love that never stops pursuing us, that never gives up on us. God, that even though we declare these truths, and sometimes it's only a declaration that hasn't sunk into our spirits yet, but together we come together as your people and we say them anyway. We say that we are confident and covered by the power of your great love in both death and in life. Help us by your Spirit to be convinced of your goodness today. In every place in our hearts and in our lives where we feel we have questions. Are you really good? Do you really love me? Spirit, would you come and fill those spaces? Would you come and teach us? And would you come plant your truth deep in our hearts that we might know you better and know your love better? Love you, Lord. Oh, mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up sing of the goodness of God. Amen. You may be seated. Well, we've had an incredible month looking back over the last few years, remembering our journey and praying for where God is going to lead us as we come into the end of our 3-year capital campaign to raise funds for this building. Where is he taking us next? But you've heard a lot from me over the past month, so I think it's time for you to hear from Jay, who I'm finally joined by, co-chair of the Flourish campaign together. So Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Flourish has meant to you over these past 3 years?
Well, first of all, it's been just so super cool to watch us as a church rally around something that's a super big and a huge idea that culminated in this, which is hard to imagine. Just a few years ago when we were being interviewed by the district, and we were standing in front of rubble where our church used to be. Right. On a personal note, I think for me, I would say for us, generosity is a heart thing, but it's also a discipline, right? And sometimes it's spontaneous, and sometimes, like this thing here, it's taken a lot of planning and a lot of courage and that discipline from day to day. And I think we've learned as you practice generosity, you find more opportunities for generosity. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I assume you do. Like, it's a whole bunch of fun just to be generous and to bless people. But ultimately, I think it reminds me of whose it all is anyways, right? So when we talk about generosity, we don't just talk about money. We talk about our time, our talents, and the things that we're particularly good at. And I think saying that I'm going to be generous with my time and my talents and my money is probably not really the right thing to say, right? Because it's not mine anyways. Like really right down to my last breath, right? And so I think when we're generous, it reminds us, again, of who God is. He doesn't change. We need to line up with him. And, I think it reminds me, and it requires me to again say, God, yeah, I actually do believe who you say you are, and that you are good in spite of whatever else is going on around us.
Yeah, totally. It was that for us too, Jay, this journey together. Over the last few weeks, we've been reminded of some of the anchors that we had as a community as we navigated all of that transition and the waiting. We wanted to be really intentional. We had a lot of conversations like when we would have our campaign meetings and stuff. We wanted to be really intentional about moving forward as a community without a once we're in the building kind of waiting. We decided that we wanted to be a people formed and empowered by the Holy Spirit. We wanted to resist the temptation to turn inward, and we wanted to remember that we exist to be good news to our community. And then the other priority is kind of what you touched on, was radical generosity. That's what we talked about, that even when it felt like resources were lacking, we would choose to trust in the provision of God and live from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. So what are some of the ways, Jay, that you have seen generosity grow in our community?
Wow. Okay, so she only gave me like 35 minutes for this, so it was really, really hard to just come up with a super short list. But I think first of all, if we think about, when we talk about generosity, we often think about money. So our Flourish campaign, right? We have managed, and we're going to share some numbers with you in a minute, but this has been happening during what do you call that thing again? Oh, yeah,
I think it's
pandemic.
COVID?
Right,
COVID?
yeah, during a pandemic, when churches are struggling all over our nation to just try and make budgets, we have been going through a capital campaign that's gone outrageously well. So the other thing is time. And boy, have we ever had an opportunity to practice generosity with time, right? With all the things that have taken place, I think about like our building committee donating 3 years of effort in this. I think about all the people that stepped up while we tried to continue doing church during a pandemic, and the volunteers that are filling next door and that are here. I'm always shocked when I come in here on Sunday morning and I see all the cars in the parking lot, and church isn't going to be for 2 hours yet, and that's just how much time it takes to do things. Volunteering. So we run ministries here on Sunday morning. As I said, our people in our community, whether it's volunteering to coach the Cougars football team or hockey or soccer or, the town of Stony Plain actually coming to us and wanting to talk about doing big things together, right? That shows that we have a heart of generosity. So working with our disadvantaged people. So
yeah, and Jay, I actually had the opportunity to post that on social media, that video from Mayor Choi, that he donated his time to be a part of that and to create that video because he wanted to call us back into the community because he was so convinced that we were a blessing to the community and that we needed to rebuild.
Yeah, that's a weird one. As a board, about a year before the fire, we actually had a conversation and said, what would it look like here if SPAC wasn't here? What is the impact of this place in our community? And we actually got to find out a little bit. So anyway, disadvantage. So whether it's volunteering for the Mustard Seed or Moms Canada or the food bank, loving others well in the ministries we do with Alpha and our addictions care, Love in Action, all these sorts of things. But I think as well, most importantly, just making sure and continuing, and as we change our church's posture to be that outrageous ragtag community, right, that just is joined together by one thing and one thing only, right, and that's Christ and the grace, forgiveness, and love that he brings. That means that we can offer that to all people in our community. So,
Amen. Well, 3 years ago, this was the scene when we gathered together. You want to pop that picture up there? This was the scene 3 years ago. This was the number that we had come up with. Raise your hand if you were at Heritage Pavilion that day. It was buzzing, right? There was so much excitement there. We got the number that we needed to move forward with construction by $162, right, Jay?
Hours before we had to make a go or no-go decision. So, yeah.
So, but together today, we have the privilege of announcing that after this final month of Flourish, we come to the end of June, and I get to share the final number raise. But Jay, I didn't think about how we're going to do this with our microphones at the same time.
I don't know. I'll just drop my microphone. It'll be
all right. This will be very awkward. I will get in my face, and I have got in the face before and my shoulder. So Jay is going to do the confetti cannon while I announce.
Okay.
Does that work?
Well, I'll try to do it.
We clearly practiced this. Okay, the final number raised for Flourish is $1,651,699. Oh, I'll do it for the next one.
Sure, okay. I'll do the next one. So this last month alone, we've had a little bit of a push. And the month's not over yet, so if you're feeling left out, you still have opportunities. But this month alone, we've raised $38,022 for Flourish.
So this is an incredible example of radical generosity. Not to mention that Dan announced at Converge just the other Tuesday that many people who have been contributing have rolled their Flourish monthly giving over into our general fund. So thank you from the staff, the board, the Flourish team, the building team. Thank you for making this a reality. And now that we have been formed by this value of radical generosity, we get to step into the next season as a community, as a more open-handed and generous people. Not just with our money, but with our lives, with our time, our gift of presence, and most importantly, in the sharing of the greatest gift, which is the good news of Jesus Christ. So thank you. One more round of applause. This is incredible. I'm going to invite you to stand as we do our giving liturgy together. We do this every week, again, as a declaration as a community that this is how we want to be shaped together. So I'll read the first part. Father in heaven, you are generous. There is nothing we have that you have not given us. Our world is corrupted by greed and scarcity, by grasping for more and fearing that there won't be enough. Jesus, your kingdom is not this way. Instead, it is built on abundance. Spirit, you freely give of your gifts. Empower us to do the same. Help us to be trustworthy with little so that we can be trusted with much. Help us to invest in treasure that will not decay, but will shine. Amen. You may be seated.
Yeah. Oh, wow. How do you follow that up? Right? I mean, also, how do I not be distracted the whole time? So I apologize for my brain that functions similar to the seagulls in, what was that again? Finding Nemo with the mind distracted, or the dogs in Up, which are squirrel. So from time to time, I will probably say confetti. Well, let's pray. Jesus, we just declare again that you are good. That your kingdom is a good kingdom. Your kingdom is one of abundance. And we just thank you for all the ways you provided for us. All the ways that you've led us. You've brought us into this space. You've brought us into the ability to be together once again. Jesus, thanks for times like this where we can remember, where we can reflect on all the ways that you have been shaping, all the ways you've been working. Continue to form us to be a people of remembering. And Jesus, I really want to bless the congregation, bless my friends here as conduits of your provision. And so we bless our church family, we bless the kids over there, we bless their workers over there. In your name, as people of good news, of people of generosity, of people of provision, as people who have been formed to be like you. And so Jesus, as we open up the word today, we again give you the floor. And we say, would you come and speak to us? Would you come and share with us? Would you come and invite us into more of you? Into more of your kingdom, into more of your way. So Spirit of the living God, would you fall fresh on us now? Amen. My name is Matt, if you don't know me, and we're going to read the scripture together. And so we're going to be in Mark, if you can imagine that, in chapter 12, only a few chapters ago, which we'll pick up in fall. Today will be the last week of Mark for a bit here. So this is Mark chapter 12, starting in verse 13. Later, they sent some of the Pharisees and Herodians to Jesus to catch him in his words. They came to him and said, "Teacher, we know that you are a man of integrity. You aren't swayed by others, because you pay no attention to who they are, but you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? Should we pay or shouldn't we?" But Jesus knew their hypocrisy. "Why are you trying to trap me?" he asked. "Bring me a denarius and let me look at it." They brought him the coin, and he asked them, "Whose image is this, and whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. Then Jesus said to them, "Give back to Caesar what's Caesar's, and to God what's God." And they were amazed at him. The word of the Lord. So throughout this since October, we've been going through the Gospel of Mark in this series, this overarching series called The Way. And in this series on The Way, we've been looking at the way of Jesus because around here we are about fullness of life for everyone by practicing the way of Jesus together. We believe that Jesus offers the best life, and the way that we experience that best life is by living in his way. And so we've wanted to see what his way is like. And it's been fun so far. It's been fun discovering more and more of who Jesus is, discovering what his kingdom is. I've been surprised numerous times at just the kind of things that Jesus brings up, the ways that he challenges us, the ways that he really shapes us. And so I can say this many months later, the way of Jesus is better than I had imagined before. The way of Jesus is so much more good than I had imagined before. It's beautiful. It's a way of forgiveness, a way of free from bitterness and anger, a way of joy, a way of confronting power and structures that try to push people down, and instead inviting a whole flip and reorientation on that. And this morning, Jesus is going to do that again. So when we left off last week, Jesus had just gone to the elders and the teachers of the law and the chief priests, and he told them they were under judgment. It was really nice, that meek and mild Jesus who never says anything to offend people, says something that's deeply offensive. Remember? And how did it end? It ended with the rulers of Israel wanting to arrest Jesus. But they had one problem. Do you remember what that problem was? The crowds. Everybody around Jesus was enamored by him, and they loved him and were all in on what he was saying. And so to arrest Jesus in that moment would have only led to a revolution, would have only led to them being overthrown, would have only led to them, losing their power, something they dearly loved. So it's in this space we come to this morning's passage. Now, we read this. It says, "Later they sent some of the Pharisees and Herodians to catch Jesus in his words." So they would be the rulers. Now, the Pharisees and the Herodians, if you don't know, are two groups of people that did not like each other. They represent two very different ways of being in the world. First of all, the Herodians represented a way of being in the world that was all about acquiescing to Rome, about saying to Rome, "You win. We want to be like you. We want your power. We want your fame. We want your glory, so we're going to live the Roman way." The Pharisees, on the other hand, were saying, "We don't want your way. We want the way of religion." They believed if everybody in Israel just followed Torah, the law, for one day, just one day, the Messiah would come. The Messiah, with his power and strength, would overthrow Rome. They'd be on the top side of power. Everybody would be happy. So they became all about the rules and about having fences that would keep you from breaking the rules. And these two groups of people, of course, have very different ways. Very different ways of moving in the world, and did not like each other, but they liked something else, or better put, someone else a little less. A guy named Jesus. And all the way back in Mark 3, we see them starting to talk to one another about how they could kill Jesus because he was a threat to them. And so they're sent today to send a trap, to catch him in his words. And so they come with this question about taxation. Now for us, we read about taxation, and it kind of sounds boring, right? Like, who here has big, riveting conversations about taxes other than the gas tax right now? Taxation's not a fun thing to talk about. It's not a deeply controversial issue always. But for them, this was a Roe versus Wade situation. You see, about 27 years before, Rome had marched into the Holy Land. It had once been a state of Rome, but led by its own king named Herod. But then Herod died, and Herod's sons were a mess. They were fighting for power, fighting for control, and Rome just finally had enough. And they said, "We're taking you over, you're going to be our state, and all your people will be a part of us now." They won't be citizens, of course. That would be crazy. But instead, these people will just be a part of who we are. And so to figure out to figure out how many people they had, they decided to run a census. Because if you figure out how many people you have, you know how much you can tax, you know how much more you can spend on your army so you can crush more people. This is the Roman way. And so they started this census. Now, in this little podunk part of Israel called Galilee, there's a guy named Judas. And we read about Judas in Acts 5:37. It's just up here. After him, Judas the Galilean appeared in the days of the census and led a band of people in revolt. He too was killed and his followers were scattered. This is Judas's note in the scriptures. He saw a census and he knew the Old Testament. He knew that if a ruler called for a census without God calling for a census, this was blasphemy. And so he wanted to put a stop to it. And then not only was it a good ruler like David, in fact, it was a very corrupt ruler named Caesar. And so Judas got together everybody and said, let's fight Rome. And what happens is when you fight Rome, typically you get squashed, and they got squashed. But his memory and his message lived on in the form of a group of people called the Zealots. The Zealots were all about overthrowing Rome. The Zealots had power in the local populace because they represented another way of living. And so when they come and ask the question of should we pay taxes to Caesar or not, it's not about money. It's not about a coin. It's not about anything other than allegiance. That if I pay my taxes, I'm saying to Caesar, I'm with you. I'm on your side. And the interesting thing about Caesar on top of this is that he didn't just want to rule your country, he wanted you to worship him. Dan, can you throw the picture of the denarius up on the screen? I know I'm jumping a little ahead here. This is what the coin looked like. There's this guy named Caesar Tiberius up there, and it says that he's the son of the Most High God, Augustus. And on the other side, it says Pontifex Maximus, which means he's the high priest. So Caesar, in giving you his coin and making you pay his tax, is calling you to worship him, calling you to join in on another way of being in the world, a way that he called the Pax Romana, a way that he called ruling by the sword, that I'm going to bring peace to your world, but I'm going to do it by crushing any other story because I'm a divine God and I have the right to do this. So this is the conversation behind the conversation. So now we're going to pick it up again in verse 14. So they come to Jesus, and they say to him, we know that you are a man of integrity. You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are. Now, what they're not saying is that Jesus doesn't pay attention to people. We know Jesus pays attention to people. Jesus is constantly seeing people for who they really are. What he's saying is you don't care about authority. You don't care about titles. You don't care about that sort of thing. He says you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. So is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? This is a good trap. We should acknowledge this from the beginning. The Pharisees and the Herodians have come up with the best way they can think of to trap Jesus, and it's actually a really good way. They're coming to him and they're saying, should we pay taxes? Meaning, should we give allegiance to Rome or not? Now, the Herodians pay taxes because they're with Rome. The Pharisees pay taxes because they don't want to upset the apple cart. But the people don't like paying taxes. There's records that say it's probably the taxation levels in Israel at this time were probably 50% of people's income. So taxation was heavy. Taxation was hard, and the people didn't want Rome there. They were being oppressed, and so they were looking for a way to escape Rome. They were looking for a Messiah who would rule them, and they thought Jesus was the guy. So, with that in place, they asked the question, should we pay taxes? Now, if Jesus says yes, what are the crowds going to say? They're going to say, boo this man. We want nothing to do with him. He's with Rome. We thought he was going to free us from Rome, but he's with Rome. Then they win. They have the crowds against Jesus. But if Jesus says no, then what happens? They walk over to the Roman centurion over there and they say, hey, that guy, you should arrest him for sedition. He's against Caesar. He's trying to start a revolt. So if they say yes, or if he says yes, they get rid of Jesus. If he says no, they get rid of Jesus. They've got a very binary yes and no question that they're posing to Jesus. And any sort of binary yes or no answer is going to end in Jesus getting arrested. And Jesus comes into that and he offers a very interesting and beautiful and incredible question. He says to them, why are you trying to trap me? Bring to me a denarius and let me look at it. Which is interesting. Jesus doesn't have one of those coins. Either it's because Jesus doesn't have a taxable income, or secondly, better yet, if you could throw that coin back up there, Dan. Jesus follows the 10 Commandments. And the 10 Commandments say, have no graven image. Make no idol. The coin is an idol. Jesus doesn't have one. So he says, oh, go get me a coin. So they bring back this coin. And he says, whose image is on it? Whose inscription? On this piece of propaganda, this icon, this image, is Caesar. The coin says, Caesar's a god. The coin says, I'm divine. The coin says, my Pax Romana, my way, peace through victory, peace through crushing and conquering, peace through resisting and destroying any resistance to my peace is the way. So give me ultimate allegiance. This coin is about giving your life to Rome, they think. But Jesus says, oh, okay, give to Caesar what's Caesar's. His face is on it. You can have it. And it's because of the following line. He says, give to God what is God's. That's a huge statement in the day. Caesar's saying, I'm a god, right? And Jesus says, okay, give to Caesar what's Caesar, and give to who? Whose? He says, give to Caesar what's Caesar's, but Caesar's not God. Caesar may say he's the Son of God. Caesar may say he's divine. Caesar may say he has the right to be the Lord of your life, the right to be the King of all kings. But he's just a guy. And yeah, he's got some power, and yeah, he's got some money, so give him his money. But that's it. Do not give Caesar your allegiance. Do not live in Caesar's way. Do not give Caesar your life. Only one gets that. God. His Father, Yahweh. Only one is worth putting our life in. And why? Because God's image is on something else. Which, if we go back to Genesis chapter 1, we read this. Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move on the ground. So God created who? Mankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Just like Caesar takes his picture and puts it on a coin and sends it all throughout his empire to say what he's like and his rulership and his power, God takes his image and places it on us. Places it on you, places it on me, places it on all of humanity. To show what he's like, to show who he is. We are image bearers of the divine. So then what does God get? Jesus says, well, Caesar may demand your allegiance. That's not his prerogative. Give to God what's God's. Only one has the right to ask for your allegiance. Only one truly is the King of Kings. Only one is the Lord of Lords. Paul, taking this a little further in Romans chapter 12, says, therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. What does God get? He gets our everything. God doesn't just get a piece, Paul writes. God doesn't just get part of our lives. It's not Jesus and our allegiance isn't split. Instead, Paul says only one person is worth placing your trust in. Only one person, only one being is trustworthy. Only one can actually ask for this. To give God what's God's means to give him our very lives, to give him our allegiance, to allow him to be Lord over our lives, to allow him to say what best life is, what reality is, what the good life is. And as we do that, he transforms us to be like him, renews our minds. Because the issue at stake is the allegiances we have either clarify our image or tarnish it. Think of this coin here. It's a nice and shiny coin. The year on it is 2020. So, I'm probably the only human who's touched this coin. Let's be honest. Nobody else touched coins during the pandemic. It's shiny. It's beautiful. Hasn't been used much. It's untarnished. What happened, though, if that coin gets passed around for years? Goes from hand to hand, and maybe even sometimes a kid touches that hand after having ice cream or something like that. It gets gross and nasty, and eventually it gets tarnished and marred, and maybe the image gets scabbed and scraped, or scrabbed if you want to combine those words together. It's something new the kids are saying. It's not. The image gets tarnished. The image no longer looks like how it's supposed to be. We function the same way. When we give our allegiances to anything other than God, we end up marring and tarnishing our image, because all the other ways that offer life are like buckets that can't actually support the holding of life. They just leak it out. And we put our hope in things. We put our hope in ways of living. Ways of living tell us that the best way is found in being bitter, not choosing to forgive, having binary answers of yes and no, and having no space for gray. They tell us that the life is found in climbing the ladder or working harder, having more followers and more influence, whatever. But what these things do is only end up leaving us exhausted. And it's not just things in the world, really. It's things that we can do in the church, too, where we turn into the Pharisees and we start following rules because we think that if we follow rules, then we'll be loved. And to be honest, I fall into this trap far too often. I get disordered in this way. I use things like spiritual disciplines, which are good and beautiful, to put us in the pathway of God, to be with him, to become like him and learn, and to do what he does. But I do them far too often with the wrong thinking of, if I do these things, God will love me. If I obey, I will be loved. But the truth is, and God is continuously reminding me of this, he reminded me of this 2 weeks ago in Ephesians, that I'm rooted and established in love. So I don't do things like spiritual disciplines to root myself into the love of God. I'm already there. God's already rooted me in his love. He's already formed me in his love. Now I need to live into it. And so the invitation of disciplines isn't to obey so that I'm loved, but instead, I'm loved, so can I obey? Can I live into this good and full and beautiful life that Jesus offers? It's easy to get marred. All sorts of things mar our lives. I know it's marring mine lately, whether it's rules or whether it's pride. But Jesus is gracious, and Jesus is kind, And he's constantly there inviting. And that's another difference between him and Caesar. Caesar demands. He says, work harder, do more, try harder. Caesar says, you've got to come into my way, you've got to be in my life. But Jesus instead says, hey, I'm here. I have life for you. Will you receive it? He knows the spaces that we're tired in, the spaces we're exhausted in. And he offers true rest. He says, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy burdened. Take my yoke upon you, aka learn my way, and you'll find in it there's rest for your soul. Rest on the deepest level. Rest that takes away the marring of our coins, of our image. Rest that reforms us and rebuilds us. Rest that's not just a quick getaway to the Okanagan, as great as that is, but instead a whole new way of being. A rest that's about the good life. You see, the invitation to Jesus is to a life of clarifying your image. And so this is why we think fullness of life is found in Jesus, is because we think as our Creator, he knows the best way for us to live. And as we live that way, we become more and more human than we ever were. Because if you think about it, there's only one human who's ever lived that's been an untarnished image bearer. And that's Jesus. That's why in Colossians, Paul says he's the image of the invisible God. When you look at Jesus, you see exactly what God is like. And as his apprentices, the invitation is to live so that when people look at us, they see what Jesus is like. And so as we live his way, as we learn to live in forgiveness, as we learn to live in enemy love, as we learn to live in humility and grace, as we learn to be people of love and joy and peace and patience and goodness and kindness and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control through the power of the indwelling Spirit, we become the image bearers that he's invited us to. And we end up living the fullness of life. Which, of course, isn't a quick thing, but instead a long journey. As Eugene Peterson calls it, a long obedience in the same direction, something that we'll be doing for the rest of our life. And so this morning, I want to invite you to take a few moments and ask Jesus, where is my allegiance falling today? Where is my allegiance split with you and something else, whether that's work, whether that's pride, whether that's busyness, whether it's whatever. And to return to him once again and say, you are Lord. I want to give you what's yours. So what we're going to do is we're going to come to the table in a minute. And as we come to the table, I want to invite us to come to the table as a space of allegiance. Of saying to Jesus, I'm yours. I want to live life in your way. And so if you don't have your elements, feel free to grab them. I had to grab them right before I came up on the table, or right up on the stage. But I'm going to pray for us real quick here. Jesus, you know how our hearts are often chasing after other things. Looking for other ways to live in the world, whether that's success or greed or scarcity, whatever. And so would you, Spirit, search us and know us right now? Show us where our lives are being tarnished by another way. Spirit, would you give us the strength, the self-control, the self-discipline to give those things to you? To let you reinterpret them in light of the way of Jesus. So as we approach the table today, we approach it as a space of allegiance, a space of saying to Jesus, I am with you. As we receive the bread and the cup, We are receiving from him in his way, receiving his unforced rhythms of grace. And as such, there's no forcing you to do so. This isn't a table of demand. This is a table of invitation. If you are in need of his rest, if you are in need of his unforced rhythms of grace, if you are in need of his mercy, if you want to experience more of his fullness of life, he welcomes you to share in this meal. If you're saying, I'm not sure I want to give him my allegiance, which of course doesn't mean you have everything together and no doubts. Of course not. It means, Jesus, I don't think I want that from you. I don't want your mercy. I don't want to live in your way. Then I would invite you not to join in the table this morning. But in the table, we come to commune with the triune God and with one another, remembering that we are part of the community of God that stretches beyond space, time, and matter. We are part of a group of people who for thousands of years have been saying, I pledge allegiance to the Lamb, to the Son of God, the true Son of God. And so, on the night he was betrayed, while they were still eating, Jesus took bread. And when he had given thanks, he broke it. Let's break the bread together. And he gave it to his disciples, saying, take it, this is my body. Let's eat together. Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. And so let's give thanks to God.
I invite you to just sit, to receive this song. And sing it if you know it. But it's a prayer. And it's a response to God saying that I will be your image bearer. So sing it as a declaration of your allegiance in response to what he's done, his cross, his love. God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, you spoke to the dark, fleshed out the wonder of light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born, and the vapor of your breath emanates from. The stars were made to worship so high. I can see your heart in everything you made. Every burning star receive the fire of grace. Creation sings your praises so high. God of your promise, don't speak in vain, no syllable empty your voice. For once you have spoken, nature and science follow the sound of your voice. And as you speak, of salvation. You chase down my heart through all of my failure and pride. On the hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Where you lost your life so I could find it here. You left the grave behind you so alive. I can see your heart in everything you've done. Every part designed a work of art. You gladly choose surrender so alive. I can see your heart in a billion different ways. Every precious one, a child you died to save. You gave your life to love them so alive. Like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desire? You're the one who never leaves one behind.
Create space and opportunity for prayer after our services. And so if for any reason today you would like prayer in response to something that went on this morning or just anything going on in life, we have a prayer corner in the back over here and a team that would love to pray with you. Don't forget that we are celebrating, so grab your kids, grab some freezies, stay and linger. And I want to just speak this blessing over you this morning as we go. Stony Plain Alliance Church, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face toward each one of you and give you peace. Have a great week.